In this video, I intend to show you how to bring up data for your GIS. This data is going to be displayed in your map window, and it's going to be displayed also on your layer window. And it's a very simple process. What you do is you come to the Add Data button here, where you see it's the button that has the plus sign. So you just click on that, and you basically what you do is you browse to wherever the shape files are going to be located in a folder in your computer. What's going to happen is that depending on the type of data it is, you're going to have different shape files with a different icon. For example, if you see the icon that's for the states, counties, and lakes, it's different from the one that's places and rivers. The reason why that happens is because states are basically polygons, places and cities are just point locations, and drainage and rivers are basically linear features. So we're gonna select to start. We're gonna select just one file. We're gonna select states. We're gonna bring it up on the GIS. What this message is saying is that the window doesn't have a projection, so this shouldn't be a problem. Just click OK, and this is what's going to happen. The basic buttons that we've talked about was like pan and zoom in, zoom out, extend. For example, if we zoom in just for Louisiana or the Gulf, you just select one corner and drag the mouse. But if you want to go a little bit, you want to extend it out, zoom out, so that way it'll go in a progression. But if you hit the full extent, it's going to bring you again to the full extent of the GIS. Now there's a lot of things that you can do with the ArcMap. If you want to change the color of the polygons, you just double click and you can change it from olive to blue, and you can also change the outline color to black, and you can make the lines thicker. There's a lot of properties that you can play with over here. So let's say we're gonna make it blue, and that's what happened. Probably the lines here were too thick, so we're just gonna bring it down to 1 again, and this looks a little bit better. Now for you to see what's going on behind this, you have to right click on the place where it has the check, and just go to the attribute table, and this is what's gonna be behind that feature. You see we have a unique ID code. It tells you what kind of shape it is, and it gives you information like area, the state name, some zip codes, and so on and so forth. And each and every one has information that's been generated previously. But for example, if you wanted to add information to this shapefile, the only thing that you need to do is click here where it says option, and you say add a field, and you give it a name. Let's name it new field, and you tell it what kind of data you're gonna store it in. If you're gonna store numbers, usually what you want to do is leave it as a double, or if you want text, you just tell it to store it as text. So let's say we're gonna store it as text, and we're gonna have we can tell it how many characters we want them to store. So we're gonna tell it to store 100 characters, and then we say OK. And if we scroll down, we'll see that we just added a new column to the database. Now for us to be able to input data in this database, we need to go to the Arc Editor. We select the Arc Editor, and we say start editing. We select the file that we're going to work with, and you say start editing, and you see now things change color up here. That means that it's in edit mode. So we can store any kind of information here. So just for an example, we're gonna say that this state has a high index, high hit index, for example, and you can store information as you're gonna be working with this file, low hit index. And to save this information here, you just go back to the editor and say stop editing, and you tell it that you want to save the edits, and you see now it's not in the edit mode anymore. So if you want to see what happened there, we just have to go and we're going to reopen the attribute data by selecting right click, open the attribute table. We're gonna go to the end of the column, and what we're gonna do is gonna make a right click and we're gonna tell it sort ascending, or we could do it sort descending. That way we're gonna have our information here, and by selecting these two files, we're gonna be able to see what are the states that we just pointed or entered data as low or high heat index. Another thing that's really interesting is when you select data like we just did through the attribute table, you can do a right click and just go to this menu that says export data, and you're going to create a new shapefile that has those attributes, and I'm just gonna label it example 1, and now it's generating the file, and then it's gonna ask you if you want to import that file to your map layer, and if you want to, you say yes or no, and you see that it came up here. To deselect what we just selected, just go to selection and you ask them to clear selection features, and you see now you have you've created a really easy GIS. That's one way to create map shape files, but the other way is go through the R catalog. The R catalog is another software that's related to RMap, and in this one, copying files or producing files is a lot easier. So we're just gonna wait for it to load, and we're gonna work with our catalog for a little bit on the next video.